Well, I'm going to begin by asking, I mean, Agent Carter has a UK release date now, that must have been such music to your ears, because there was a point where we weren't too sure if it was going to be shown here, and now it is. I mean, does it mean more to you because you're from here, that people that you know, your friends, family, are able to see this?
Absolutely. It means that my mum can finally see it with proof that I was actually in America doing the job that I said I was doing. It's lovely to bring something back to your, to home, and it's a job that I'm tremendously proud of. It feels very British in some ways, and it's a period piece, and it's very elegant, and I think it's kind of something that the English audiences will love. And you don't also have to be a massive fan of Marvel or the comic books to be able to follow the story. So it stands alone as its own piece.
So this is very much accessible, would you say then, to people that aren't sort of too well versed in the whole Marvel universe?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of got everything. It's got action, adventure, and thrills, but then it also has kind of psychological depth. In we understand the emotional cost of what it was like for her to lose Captain America, and the cost of being this kind of super spy who's undervalued in the workplace.
And it must be great fun to play this character who can be revisited at any age, from your age now to sort of 98. I mean, it must make you feel like you know her so well in every aspect. Would you say you know her more than any other character you've ever kind of tackled?
Absolutely, and it's very rare that you get a chance to kind of to play that character over time and to be kind of re-employed. That's kind of where the compliment comes, because you think, oh well, I must have done a good job because they've employed me again to do it, do it another time. But I did feel like the first Captain America film was obviously the beginning of her career, and then the second Captain America film was kind of the other bookend of her life, and then this series is filling in the details of what she did with that life and how rich it was, and how she became a leader in her own right, and how she struggled to get there.
One of my favourite things about the character is that she's very human. I mean, she's vulnerable. You can very much relate to her in that regard. And I was just wondering if that was part of the appeal for you, but also is it quite challenging to kind of get in touch with the more kind of intimate, kind of personal aspects to her sort of personality when she's placed in such a surrealistic kind of universe?
Yeah, well, I think that initially that was one thing that I said that I wanted to create with her. And we really collaborated with the writers on this and the producers on this, just to make sure that I was kind of having my say as well of what I felt that I could play up to my strengths and things that I wanted to give to her, which we hadn't seen before. But one of them was vulnerability, and one was also warmth and humour. And I think I had to let go of the fact that it was this genre of this kind of slightly super exaggerated world, because as an actor you can kind of just go, if I root it in something that feels truthful and feels plausible, then other people are going to believe it. So you'll suspend your disbelief if you feel like the actor has kind of worked out and consistently kind of creates something that becomes believable. So that's, it's been a challenge, but it's been something that's been very fulfilling.
I mean, of course, it goes without saying, but it's brilliant to have a kind of a female-led series of this nature on the telly. And I was wondering, do you think that we have, well, because it does seem that we have progressed somewhat in recent years. Have you noticed that as a kind of actress in the industry? Have you found there are more roles like this over the past 10 years? Would you say that there's more opportunities now than there were sort of 10 years ago?
I think in terms of television there is. I feel like television's having a golden age, and it's attracting a lot of film actors and film writers and film directors, because there's just you have a longer time frame to create characters, and so you can get richer, deeper, more dynamic, more interesting stories because you just have more time to do it. And I think it's a very exciting time for women in that respect. And I know that they're making a Captain Marvel, and there'll be other superheroes with kind of Wonder Woman and Supergirl as well, and all of those kind of things, which is really exciting, because I think they're going to appeal to a new generation.
So, I mean, the line is kind of blurred now between film and TV, but is TV more demanding for you? Because when you were making Captain America, weren't you doing kind of a course in history of Burma or something?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think you could probably do that with Agent Carter.
I could have no time to do it. You're driving every single scene, so it takes a certain amount of stamina. But also, there is a responsibility to being how you conduct yourself on a set, because you are responsible for the atmosphere that is created, and as the the leading actor. And so that takes a certain amount of kind of physical energy to be able to sustain that, so people are all feeling that they're working in a positive environment. But I feel like that's kind of the challenge that has been the most rewarding, actually, of understanding how to kind of lead a set of people.
I know it's very kind of easy to say when people are trying to sell their project, but there does genuinely seem to be a real spirit amongst the whole Marvel collective, all the actors and actresses that are linked to all the different projects. I mean, is that the case? And also, do you you sort of keep in touch and speak to a lot of these people outside of the shoot?
Yeah, I do. I especially one of the writers, Eric Pearson, dear friend of mine, and he wrote the one-shot short film that he did, and then he became one of the main writers. And so we keep in contact, and also Chris Evans I'm in contact with, and I went and gate crashed to the set of Captain America 3 and saw Deborah Lemire Denevere, who did my makeup, Al Lapone, who did the makeup for the Winter Soldier, so and lots of crew members that were working on my show too. So it does feel like a family. It feels really, it's very rare that you get that. You don't get that stability as an actor most of the time because you're kind of constantly making new friends and being in different worlds and working with different people. So to be able to have that kind of repeat itself is very heartwarming. It's kind of creates a family feel.
And can it be quite tough sometimes to remember to call them by the actors' names, or is it sometimes like, hey Loki, you know, how you doing, Captain?
Cap. It's well, do you know what it is? It's not actually, because they're so different from the characters that they play. You know, Chris is a goofball, and Tom is very sweet and very charming. So it's a testament to how talented they are as actors, that you can really differentiate between who they are and who they play.
And what comes with being involved in Marvel is, I mean, there's various sort of fan theories, and one of which is that Agent Carter is Tony Stark's mother because of her relationship with Howard.
Howard,
I was wondering, what's your take on that? Is that something that you could believe in?
Well, I think it would be quite... it would undermine the relationship that she has with Captain America, I think. And I also think that she doesn't trust Howard in that respect. So she would be kind of lowering her standards, I think, if she ended up with Howard. But I mean, maybe it could blossom into a perfect romance. I think anything's possible. I think the people on Twitter have loved the idea of that Angie and Peggy are together, which is a fantastically original idea. And then also Daniel Souza, and I also know from the comics that Peggy had the first interracial kiss in the comic books, so that's possibly something we could explore. But there's many different avenues. I mean, there's many possibilities for romance in Peggy's life.
And of course, we see the formation of S.H.I.E.L.D. in Season 2. Are you set to make more cameo appearances in Season 3 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I'm not sure. I mean, there would have to be flashbacks or dream sequences, I suppose, or unless we kind of develop time travel. I don't doubt it, because I think it's a Marvel world, anything can happen. And I think interweaving those stories just make the whole thing a lot more richer and a lot more fun.
I mean, of course, Season 1 explored origins of Black Widow and Winter Soldier programs. And what could we expect of Season 2? I mean, the formation of S.H.I.E.L.D. at last?
Hopefully there'll be elements of that. I mean, we're setting it in LA, and it's a year later from the first season, and Peggy's in a much happier place within her life. So we're going to find there'll be a new nemesis, there'll be a new bad guy, there'll be a love interest, so we'll see more about her personal life and what she does outside of the SSR. And probably, I think it will develop into kind of more origin stories about how things developed, and I certainly hope that S.H.I.E.L.D. comes in there at some point.
Just finally, of course, Agent Carter appeared in AntMan Prelude comics with Hank Pym. I mean, just wondered what your role is in this movie, if you can sort of tell us much about...
I can't. I can tell you it's a cameo, but I can't tell you anything more than that because it would spoil it for the fans. I haven't even read the script of AntMan, so I also don't know the exact context to which she is relevant in this film. But she's in there somewhere. She has a little influence.
It must be really exciting for you to watch all of these films, regardless of how big a role you've got, even if you've got a role at all. It must be great to sit down and watch another Marvel film that's taking place.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I remember kind of being on set in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, and Paul Bettany in his Ultron suit is wearing a normal suit and underneath, and came in with his lunch in the catering tent, and it was so random, but it was so brilliant to kind of see. It was like, hello, and he looked extraordinary. I mean, it's a real thrill. It's a real thrill to see how they're developing over time and how interconnected they all are, and it just means that we have an extraordinarily loyal fan base, which I'm indebted to. So I like to engage with them and thank them for that.
Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank
much
you.
appreciated.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey, you